Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is our year to shine, and I'm filming this way on purpose because maybe you can see some shiny things in the background. I mentioned to you that I was going to do a seasonal mantle display, and I should have done it up closer so you could see how my winter one came out. I am so proud of it, and I had so much fun picking out the little things, and it just came together so well. I looked on the internet for some ideas, didn't really find that much that I liked. Aside from, I don't know if you can tell from that far back, but there's some sort of vines with almost like seeds in them, like, I don't know, if it's some sort of like marsh grass or something. And the rest of the stuff I just found, they sort of like pulled the colors together, and I just enjoyed sitting by my tree so much. So I've been lighting the candles whenever I come home. I put out candles near my bed again, which is really nice. And so bringing in some shiny little things into my home as well. And actually, I'm happy to report I've now been here, it'll be 3 months, unbelievably, next week. And you guys knew that I was so busy. Working 7 days a week basically until just 2 weeks ago. So I was still sort of in survival mode and a lot of chaos, and like since I've been able to slow down and get in a better little schedule and have some time off and stuff, I've actually been feeling a bit more grounded at home and doing some things like we talked about last year during our Simple Abundance year, like bringing in comforts and trying to put little flavor and personality around that feels good. And so that's really making a difference. And I just had this crazy urge to just totally change some things around too, and put up the curtains behind my bed again and stuff, which I don't think I could have done that initially because it was too much of a reminder of like what I had left and how this was not going to be what that was. But yeah, I'm getting a little more settled, I think. I still have my eye on a different unit in the place that I live so that I could have a nicer view out the window. So but I could always just move everything over there exactly like it is here. So that's not stopping me, but I've been having a little bit of fun decorating. Anyway, to our topic today. We are going through Laurie McCammon's book, Enough, right now. And just introduced it in the last video briefly. And I wanted to bring today the topic of what does it mean to be enough? That's what this book is about. And I wonder what you think when you think of that. It's hard to qualify it, and it's hard to answer it if someone said, "Are you enough?" I think it's probably some of our upbringing, as far as, remember I said this in another video, pride comes before the fall. So I know for me, growing up, at least in my earliest years, it was not good to sort of be prideful. So I think that certainly played into my own feelings of worthiness and like a fear of saying like, yes, I am enough. I bet we all have different experiences around that. I don't know if anybody is ever fostered by the perfect parenting style, you know, as I'm sure there's like some hippie parents out there that are all about love and acceptance and everything, and like choose your voice and decide who you are and all that, but I don't know that that's the average experience. So Laurie does talk to us about how, like, if somebody were to ask you, as far as like, are you enough? She has a good thing. Somebody might say to you, like at a dinner party, I don't know why they would, but imagine if someone asked you that. What would you say if someone asked you, are you enough? If you're like me, she says, your response might be something like this. You'd do a quick scan of all your failures and disappointments, weighing them against the success, and you'd likely say, no, I'm not enough. Well, not yet anyway. Or you might say, I'm a work in progress. Okay, that's not as bad as saying, I'm not enough, right? It's amazing how automatically we translate are you enough to have you done enough, right? So in that case where the person, like she was saying, that she would think about all her failures and disappointments and things, well, that would be more about like what had she done and what had her experiences or contributions been in life. Or do you have enough? And we talked about scarcity last time and how really that's a human created thing. And she said, but we didn't ask you if you achieved enough or if you owned enough. The question was, are you enough? This is an entirely different question. Expressions like, are you a man enough, reveal how confused we are about the difference between who we are and what we are. You're already enough, and the never enough paradigm that has convinced you otherwise is a man-made myth. So we talked about scarcity, the fact that there was evidence of it. So maybe there's evidence of you not feeling enough. Like maybe you didn't get enough validation growing up, or you've been fired or multiple times, or you've just had all these failures. So in your mind, you have proof, I guess, of what you would say is, quote, true. But if this is all a man-made thing, then it's just like the scarcity thing that we talked about, as far as the fact that it's not really true, even though you think it is. You are already enough. I'll share some strategies for gaining a direct personal experience of your enoughness so that you can know it is true. She says it again. You are enough. So what does it mean to be enough? I'm going to read a little bit more about what she says. It may seem obvious, but to recover our sense of being enough, we must first acknowledge our beingness. In the never enough story, there's no room for beingness. What do you think beingness is? Beingness would that be our essence, or would that be our humanity, or just our human form of our soul level? I wonder what you think beingness is. I have a kitty chiming in. That's Annabelle, my kitty co-host. Since beingness cannot be measured, it does not fit the materialistic lens we use in our current era. The never enough story therefore automatically substitutes something measurable, what we do or what we have, for what we are. Because we are what we do, we have to prove that we are enough over and over again. Can you see how exhausting this is and how it keeps us in a perpetual treadmill of doing? In essence, we're convinced that we must purchase our sense of selfhood. This is not true identity, though. This is not true beingness. A newborn child has not achieved anything, and it does not own anything. But would you say that he or she is not enough? Think about that. Or he or she is not worthy of being born? How about you? Are you enough? Are you worthy of being here on earth? Well, of course you are. You're here, aren't you? When and how did you lose your enoughness? That would be something to journal about. To maybe think about some times in your life that may have perpetuated a feeling or a questioning of how you started to feel like you didn't measure up, or you didn't belong, or you didn't have worth to go on or do what you're doing. I think that's interesting about how she said that so much of our human existence is about what we do and being enough, and how we just keep striving for more. Because remember, we talked about in the last video about happiness, and how I said it was so sad that the United States had such a low score on the happiness scale. And is that because we're just so driven for more always? And we just are just striving to achieve? I'm not saying that those other cultures weren't, but maybe there's more contentment there. Maybe they're not trying to keep up with the Joneses, that expression. They're just doing their thing. They're like, this is what I do. I'm a farmer, or tend my land. Their lives are more about who they have at home and just being alive than what they are. And I totally get this because I've had a lot of different jobs. And I've been examining my own core beliefs through my own therapy and healing. And I do think that for my own personal self that I have some standards about things that I do and the way that they're perceived. Like, for instance, I haven't done a lot of service jobs. I did work retail, but I did work in the food service industry at one point, and I felt like people treated me totally differently than they did in other settings. And so in some respects, I felt like I questioned my worth a little bit. And I questioned whether their impression of me and whether they thought I was educated or that I had any goals for my life. And so I think I can relate to some of the things. I remember also one of my retail jobs, and I was a manager. I wore an apron. That was what we wore over our clothes. And I was in a social setting once, and we were talking about dating or standards for boyfriends or whatever. And the person I was with, was a friend at the time. She made the comment, like, not even realizing my own situation, but she said, like, I would never date a man who wore an apron all day. And I was kind of thinking, like, well, I wear an apron all day, So like, if I were to be examining some of my enoughness, it might be a moment like that, and that was in my adult life even, where I would write that down and make me think, like, well, am I not worthy of somebody wanting to date me because I wear an apron all day long? I think of that moment. And so these moments can hit you anytime. You don't have to be just even a child. And obviously, like, her standard for certain things was perhaps in her family, that was what was expected. It's like, you go and you marry the Ivy League guy, and you only date the guys at the country club or whatever. I mean, who knows? I don't know enough about her background. But it's interesting when you go back to really think about, like, where do these beliefs come from? And most often it's like, it's a learned thing. Like she said, it's not even real. It's just, it's our own perception of things that we experience, or the messages that we see in movies and on television or in our family paradigm. So that would be something to journal about. Where did your not enoughness begin? And it could be a pattern of not enoughness throughout your life. And you know what? In saying that story about the apron, I'm just thinking of this. Perhaps if I had another enough story of my own, that wouldn't have affected me so much. So obviously I had some deeper things from earlier in my life that maybe had me questioning some things. And I even just shared with you that I already, that I sort of already knew that I had some standards for myself as far as what I would feel would be an acceptable line of work, or what I would feel good doing, or have a perception that people would value me more or admire me more. And so I had my own issues, and then that were not created by that situation, but that situation just sort of magnified maybe what I was already feeling, and then it just added to it. Isn't that interesting how that can happen? I said in another video one time that it is my belief that life tends to validate what you believe already. As sad as that is. I wonder if you agree. It would be, I mean, I'm not saying life can't surprise you, but it seems like if you are thinking about something in a certain way, then that's what's going to be attracted to you. And then you're just going to be like, see, I knew that was true. So if you're questioning your enoughness, then you probably are going to be attracting more things that are going to make you question it even more. So let's change that, all right? Let's go on to see more of what Laurie says. To explain how I know on a very deep level that you are enough, she tells us, I invite you to widen the lens for the man-made never enough story to the biggest possible story we could use to explain reality, which is the story of the universe in its entirety. Wow. From the universe's perspective, every one of us is enough and always has been. We are part of a whole that is inseparable, complete, perfect, wondrous, and evolving. There are no mistakes or misfits. To deny any one of us is to deny the universe's wholeness. Every aspect of creation has a place in the whole that informs and serves the rest. Therefore, we were each born enough. The never enough story does not want you to know that. It needs you to give your power away. It needs you to be unsure of yourself. It counts on you to believe you need to pay ever-increasing rent for the privilege of being alive. It counts on you to consume more than you really need because that keeps the never enough economy going. Wow. What do you think about that? Again, it's with the society thing as far as a perpetuated situation. Like if the people with the money want to have others relying on them, then they do want them to feel like they're never going to be enough and that they have to just keep slaving to pay off the other person. Yeah. So as she's setting us up for the journey on this book, she does say, throughout this book, I've asked you to join me in widening your lens of perception. I will be asking you to honestly assess if the never enough lens is the truth and if you feel it is serving you, most of humanity and the planet to your satisfaction. I believe we each know the truth already. Our bodies and hearts know what we and the world needs to be whole and healthy. Our confusion, disappointment, and frustration are not indications of our inadequacy. They are indications of our genius, of our spirit's natural, healthy response to when our body and heart are screaming to be heard, but we do not feel we have the permission or the courage to follow its advice. We talked about that a lot in our Simple Abundance year last year. I think that's all I'm going to say for today because the next topic would be a whole nother 20 minutes probably, and I don't even know. Yeah, I've already talked almost 20 minutes. I will just say one thing about the workbook. I mentioned this book also as a workbook, and I've been following along the workbook as I've been reading, and there's some really neat creative projects in it that I like. In fact, I mentioned that I was thinking about doing my vision board on the fridge over again, and I haven't done it yet, but I've been thinking about it. And one of the things in here is to make an enough board. So the reasons why you're enough. So it's kind of like the treasure map is more about the things that you're wanting, or that the reason why you're living. You know, it's like, what is it all for? Like, that's what the treasure map is. But the enough board is more about like things that are going to inspire you to remember that you're enough, and the words enough, and other things that go along with it. So I like that idea. I haven't done that, but the one that I did do, in talking about beingness and being a part of the universe and like where we all came from, this was really neat activity. And I haven't written a poem in a long time, and this is not like a rhyming poem, but you can do this at home too. She has us write a little word story about our beingness, and you don't even have to come up with, it doesn't require that much genius, okay? Because basically you're answering, these questions that she asks us, all right? So get a paper and pen if you want to write it down. So the title of what you're going to write is called Beingness. Line 1 is just a sentence. Share how you came to be or what caused it, like your origin. Line 2 is tell what it does or what happens to you. That could mean so many different things. That's why there's a whole bunch of examples of some of the ones that the people in the Enough group wrote, and they're all very different. And I didn't read them until after I wrote mine either, because I didn't want to be influenced. Line 3 is how it does it. Again, very loosely interpreted, And line 4 is where it takes you. This could be even a memory of a real place. And then tell how it affects you. All right? So I'm going to read you mine, okay? And it's really cool because I never would have come up with this had I not sat and pondered on her 5 lines that she had us do. So again, these are my answers, but it's a very neat little poem the way it came in. Okay, so this is Beingness by Carolyn Coogan, 2021. A divine spark of birthed consciousness within a physical union of 2 souls created me. Pure joy and love embodied. I came forth, I became aware. I was home. There is a mystery and a magic in all that we are and all that I will ever be. I remember and realize my divinity while in human form. Then I return home again and again. That was like what divinity came out of me. So I wish you had the workbook if you can get your hands on it. The ones that are in here are pretty cool too. And again, everybody interpreted it a little bit differently too, because some of those questions are pretty out there. So a little fun activity if you want to do that. It just gets you to ponder what your beingness is. And again, it's a little bit spiritual. That's what we are talking about on this channel, as far as like the interwoven thread of our simple abundance principles that we learned all about last year, and how that becomes a tapestry of contentment. And I think beingness and being enough and all that, that's also about contentment, because you're not going to be at peace if you're just constantly not feeling like enough all the time. And I've been really forthcoming that, you know, I struggle myself. There's areas of my life that I feel enough. Like I can feel like I'll be very capable at work, which sometimes it's like I become a workaholic, because that's like where I get like, yes, I'm enough, I'm doing a good job, and people appreciate it. But then when it comes down to it, it's just like, I don't wear an apron anymore to work, but it's like, am I enough? Like, somebody gonna want to be with me, like to share their life with me, you know? So there's other things that I'm just constantly working on. So it's all about unraveling this whole interesting message that we are given from the time we're born. And like she mentioned, the baby, we're born, we're enough, it's a miracle. Like I said in my poem, I'm a divine spark of birthed consciousness. I'm reading it like divine spark of birthed consciousness. Physical union of 2 souls created me. I mean, that's from heaven. Of course I was enough. It's a miracle I'm here. Why would I even on a daily basis question if I'm enough? Again, it's a society thing. We could talk about this forever. Let me know your thoughts. I appreciate you listening to my ramblings. We'll continue on more with the Enough book. There's a lot to talk about in it. And honestly, when I came on, I thought, I'm probably only going to have like 4 or 5 minutes to say on this. And then here I go, you know? So sometimes it's just a matter of hitting record and then more comes out. And I feel like I'm talking to you, even though you're not here. Well, you are. You're there watching me. But it's nice to talk to you, and I will see you on the next video. Please leave me a comment. Love hearing from you guys. Take care.